Welcome to the fourth episode of the Beacon Banter podcast. I am Trent Rosenthal, joined by
Robert North,
Josh Wilson.
It's our first episode back after the summer. It's been quite a while since we've done one of these, but I guess we're just going to get right into it. Josh,
Yeah.
what did you do over the summer?
I pretty much didn't really do much. I got a job working with my dad and grandpa as a contractor. A lot of the work was done for Purdue's nanotechnology research building, the book building on the campus. Got to work in a clean room. That was fun.
In a what?
A clean room?
A clean room?
Yeah.
Was your room like so dirty that you don't even want to inhabit it?
No, a clean room is a room that it is, the environment of the room is self-contained and controlled. So the air in there is purified air. They'd go through a lot of precautions to make sure there's no dirt, no dust in there. And well, you have to when you're working with nanotechnology. Because like one speck of dust is bigger than the actual thing you're working on.
You have to wear like a hazmat suit or something?
A partial one, yeah. It was like the full protective suit. There wasn't really like the helmet thing for it, but there was like a plastic face mask we wore. It's a fun experience to be in a clean room, but if you get hot easily, I wouldn't recommend it. The suits get hot.
You know what, that brings me back to something that we talked about like a few months ago that I already told you about, but I'm going to say it again for the podcast. Would you rather be hot or cold? And at first I thought I would rather be hot because, you know, you can drink water or something. You always said cold because...
I'd rather be cold because you can like put on lots more layers to help keep warm. There's only so much you can do to cool off drinking water.
Yeah, and I thought the answer was going to be hot, and I thought everyone was crazy until over the summer I did research at Western Michigan University, and we had the dorm rooms there, and they had no AC, and it was so hot in those rooms, you don't even know. One night,
yeah, you can't do that. You can't have it too hot, especially in a dorm room. I mean,
that's...
when you're sleeping, your skin is gonna stick to the mattress.
Yeah,
we had giant fans in there. It did not help at all.
Yeah, that was the freshman dorms here at Valpo. They don't have AC except for one lounge on the first floor.
They have fans in their rooms at least?
They have to bring their own fans to put in the windows.
At that point, just sleep in the fridge.
Yeah, you know they gave us fans, but like it's either too far and it's too hot, or it's like blasting right in your ear. It's got like an earful of wind the entire night.
Oh yeah, I have that too.
You have that? What?
Well, I've got the for the AC at least. In my hall in Warenberg, we have AC, but it's very directed. So if you have it on too high, you're gonna wake up feeling sick. You're gonna wake up with sinus problems. You gotta be messing with it all day long in order to not.
That might be why I was sick for an entire month there. I've had sinus problems. Mm-hmm. It was terrible in those rooms. One night, so I spent almost 70 days there. It was 69 days, 68 nights, and one of those nights I spent in the kitchen because it was terribly hot. It was like end of June. I think it's probably like 90 something degrees outside, way hotter in the building. Like I cannot take this anymore because the kitchen had AC. So
yeah, they turn off. Oh, and the worst part is they don't have like internal, or they don't have an internal ability to change the AC or to change the building temperature that they keep it at. So sometimes, what will happen is they will just decide on this day we're turning off the heat, or we're turning on the heat. So sometimes they turn on the heat and it's hot outside. So it's hotter inside than it is outside, even though it's coming close to the end of winter, summer's starting. Please turn on, the AC instead of the heat.
Well, who's that? Is that like a resident assistant that does that?
No,
The
it's
staff?
not. There's no one you can talk to.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it happens, and I don't know what to do, But
Suffer.
the solution is keep your windows open, turn a fan on, and if your AC switch is working, keep that running.
You guys pay good money to be in those dorms. How much is it like a semester?
Oh, it's actually cheaper than I think it's cheaper than the freshman halls, and it's definitely cheaper than GM and Beacon. Cheaper than the apartments, but not cheaper than the apartments if you're factoring in food. That's the problem.
Yeah, your Josh, your meal plan is what, 2,000 for the semester?
Roughly, yeah.
That's a lot for food. That's why I still get McDonald's. Well, actually, no, I don't. I started packing my lunch.
$2,000.
Hmm?
$2,000
$2,000?
for meals
Well, I guess
for
for
the
you,
entire
because you live
semester,
here.
which is roughly about 15 weeks.
But for me, that'd be 75 meals. For you, I guess it's like 150, probably weekends too.
Yeah, like that's fairly cheap compared to like going and buying my own groceries for meals every day.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, it's a one lump sum upfront payment, but you don't have to worry about making payments every day, 3 times a day to go eat, or to go and get groceries, and then you have to have time investment to cook.
Yeah.
I'd say it's kind of efficient, but
Yeah, like
the food isn't that good.
I just show up, get food, and eat. What do you mean? I actually like, for the most part, I like the food.
Really?
Yeah.
The entire last 3 episodes of this podcast,
Did,
all been you complaining about the food.
I haven't actually said a complaint, I don't think.
there was a.
I might
there was,
complain about a specific food item, like the brownies I will never get, because the only time I've ever had the brownies, I've gotten food poisoning.
Oh, I've had the brownies. I'll never have them again. Thank you. There was just an incident about Undercooked Chicken and Founders.
Yeah.
I don't know who it was. I think someone I know told me that he was sending Parkhurst a picture of his undercooked, pink on the inside chicken.
Yeah,
And said, this is
I
not
know who
this is
that
not
is.
okay. No, you know who it is.
Yeah, that's my sweet mate.
Yeah.
Also.
Anyway, so, and guess what I saw on their little whiteboard in front of Founders today? A big, long response letter to the email that was provided to them about how they're striving to keep their health and safety up to date.
That'll happen this semester.
That happened within days
With
of
3
me
days
coming.
into-
That happened 2 days ago.
Yeah.
That was like the first thing I heard when I got to campus, besides who my roommate was.
Yeah, that just seems to be how things be.
Besides that, yeah. I had to fight for. I got to fight for bacon today. They had a bacon deficit at Founders this morning.
Sounds like a real first world problem. You have to fight for bacon.
Well, I mean, it was mostly strategic. Got to cut in line.
So what'd you do this summer, Robert?
Well, I did a few classes to get ahead in my studies and trying to keep up with work and not take stuff away from this semester and next semester.
Are those through Valparaiso classes?
No, I have. I've been to a few different community colleges that I do online.
Ivy Tech?
I took. Well, I've done so far. I've gone to University of Maryland. It's an actual university, but they have an online system. I've done Western Texas College, which I think is also an actual college, but I'm not sure. It might be a community college. I've also done Virginia Western, which is a community college, and a couple others.
I assume those are much cheaper than.
It's $1,000 a class, about.
It's not bad.
But there's no room and board. So
There's no what?
there's no room and board. You can just take it. So
Is it
and
synchronous, asynchronous?
asynchronous. Yeah, I mean there's Zoom classes, but that's it. And they have proctored tests, and you sit down, and then you have to join.
They have
a
like the
Zoom call.
webcam on and everything?
Well, you join a Zoom call, and you have your webcam on, and you show you're doing your work. So it's tedious, but I get it. And but some classes don't even bother with that. They just like, here's your homework, do it, and your final exam is write this paper.
But everyone's cheating on those. They don't proctor it.
If it's for, all right, well, but how are you going to proctor writing a paper? The answer is you just review it after they send it and make sure it fits their writing style. I mean, but PSA, don't use ChatGPT for anything.
Is that from personal experience?
It doesn't work. No, not from personal experience, but it lies to you. It does lie to you.
Well, yeah.
It's a machine learning algorithm. All it does is it's like, think of it like a toddler. You're throwing words at it, and it's repeating words back to you.
Well, what?
That's all it's doing, and it's figuring out how to respond to each word that you're sending it. That's all it's doing.
Well, it doesn't generate its own ideas.
It doesn't.
It compiles everything
Exactly.
that it finds online
But-
into
yeah.
a answer. Essentially, it's pretty much just summarizes different stuff it finds online.
But it can give you it can give you like an incorrect link. Like if you're looking for a guitar, for example, and you look up, I want ChatGPT to give me this Stratocaster, and I want it on reverb. And it will know, oh, reverb.com. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Stratocaster. Let's find a Stratocaster. And it finds what a reverb.com link looks like. And then it inputs, Stratocaster. Here's a search for Stratocasters. Except it might not be reverb.com, that it uses half of the URL, which searches for the Stratocaster for. It might be Google. So then you get a link that doesn't work.
It's all pretty new, though. I mean, if you think back even 2 years ago on this date, it wasn't... I think there was a ChatGPT, but it wasn't like really big yet. I think it started getting big like November 2022, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And if you think like even just... in 2 years, it's went from that to making videos and everything. So imagine like 5 years from now, that thing's going to be so optimized, so great.
Well, I mean, yeah, it'll be better. I mean, 2 years ago we had the deep fakes that started coming out that everyone was afraid about.
Remember like the Will Smith one?
I don't
Was it
think,
Will
I don't
Smith?
think I've seen this
I forgot
one.
what it was.
I don't remember, but the spaghetti.
Yeah.
that was funny. But I mean, that was 2 years ago. I figured out how to self-host the audio deepfakes. I figured out how to do that. So if you want to use some famous voice actors' voice lines, you can string them all together into one MP3 file and then stick it in, and it'll chew on it and figure out how to imitate that voice. But it always does it poorly. You can always tell that it's text-to-speech or that it's something else because it can't do inflections. That was 2 years ago, now it's better. But you can still kind of tell. It never quite sounds like, Robert Downey Jr. or Donald Trump or whoever you're imitating. It never quite sounds like it. Like that voice. It doesn't quite match. It's always an octave off or a pitch off or something.
That was until recently, when they actually got so good that this entire podcast has just been deepfakes. This is not happening right now.
You're not supposed to tell them that, Trent. You must be eliminated
All right.
now.
Anyway,
Well, I guess I'll tell a story that I was kind of waiting to tell you guys about over the summer.
Yeah.
I told you that I was going to get a haircut one day, and I didn't have a car out there because my car broke down like a few weeks before. It's in the junkyard now. I got a new one, but so you always have to kind of ask people for rides, and it's kind of annoying. So try to avoid it as much as possible. And yeah, one day I had to get a haircut like early June, and I was like trying to figure out a good bus route I could take to make it like a half-mile walk. And I thought I found one, and I took the bus there, walked, but there's like a little bit of the woods you had to go through. I was like, you know what? I need a haircut, I'll do it. And that was a big mistake because it's not like, I was imagining from what I saw on Google Maps, it'd be like one line of trees, you just walk between them. It was totally like, so it was probably like a football field. I mean, not that long. It's probably like 20 or so yards of rough terrain going through them. Finally made it out the other side. It took me like an hour. A little embarrassing, but yeah.
Too much work for a haircut.
Then I ended up, that took me to like train tracks. But what I thought I saw like a river on Google Maps, but like a really thin one.
Yeah.
So I guess my scale was off of my eyes on like everything because it was probably like 6 or so feet across. I was like, you know what? I'll start walking along the side. If I see like a good pathway, I'll take it. And so, yeah, I finally found a good pathway, but my shoes got a little muddy. I'll put some pictures up on the screen. I took pictures before I fell in. And yeah, I do fall in. So I went across the first one because it was like woods, river, train tracks, river, woods, like a little ice cream sandwich. And so I ended up on the railroads. Then I had to make it across the second river. And that's the one where I was walking along a pathway across it. It was like a little tree branch or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started to like lose my balance a little bit. So I was like, well, now I have to jump for this. And there's like a little dirt platform. I was like, you know what? I'm either gonna fall in. If I don't jump for this, I'm gonna jump for this and I'll be just fine. So I went for the jump, landed on the dirt, and it sunk. And my entire leg got soaked in the river. My shirt was like halfway wet. My phone was in that pocket too. I thought that thing was destroyed, but it ended up being just fine. And then I still walked to get my hair cut. And at first I went to I was like, I guess I should hit up like a random store or something to see if I can use the bathroom, wash myself off a little bit. And there's like this one building that was unmarked. It's like a giant black box. I was like, you know what? They look like they have a bathroom. So I went in there. And I'm like covered in water and shame. And I was like, can I use your guys' bathroom? They're like, sir, how old are you? And I was 19 at the time, now I'm 20, but I was 19. Like, no, you have to be 21 to go in here. I never figured out what that was until I looked it up on Google Maps. It was like a weed dispensary. I was like, yeah, I guess they got a good point there.
Yeah. Is this a bad time to mention, now that you're in your story, that Valpo has a haircut place? You can get your haircut on Mondays.
Yeah, well, now I also have a car, so it just kind of cancels itself out.
Like, there's in the Union, you can just go onto the second floor and get your haircut. It's on campus.
In the Union?
Yeah. It's on the second floor of the Union. You can just go up there and there's a guy who cuts your hair, only on Mondays.
What's the price on that?
I think it's $5, maybe $15. I don't know. I don't remember. I've only gone there once. But yeah, I have no idea. It could be $100. I have no idea. Okay, probably not that much, but yeah, there's a lot of hidden things on campus that people don't know about. They just don't know about.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Twisted Sugar. I've never been there, but if I needed a donut and I was desperate for a donut, I'd probably go there.
Twisted Sugar's not donuts, it's cookies.
Oh, cookies. If I needed a cookie and I was gonna, I needed a cookie,
That gets me to the second part of the story. So the weed dispensary pointed me like across the street to a little donut shop. So that actually tied in pretty good. And
I have never heard this story before.
and I was like, well, I don't want to really ruin a small business with, I'm probably going to leave a mess in the bathroom, but I did. So I went in there anyways. And yeah, there's all money there. I mean, I tried to clean it up as best I could, but
So what you're telling me is you risked life and limb for a haircut.
Yeah, and you know what? It wasn't a bad haircut. And then I was like, well, now I have to get back home. I can either, call someone to pick me up, but like, I don't want anyone to see me like covered in mud because they'll never lose that side of me. So I was like, well, I'm not gonna walk back through all that again. So I guess I'll call an Uber. And on the Uber ride, this guy was like, he was taking a phone call. He was driving a Ford F-150. And it was something about, he was calling his insurance company because someone either slashed or somehow his ex-wife's tire got popped. And he was like, well, how do you know if it was slashed or if it was, it was just popped naturally? And something about this, I could definitely tell that he was the one that slashed it because he said his ex-wife, that was the reason they got divorced, because the tires got slashed. It's like, this guy is definitely guilty. He's probably crazy. He was like, I don't know, it was a crazy ride, but not as crazy as the last hour of my life until that point where I fell in a river. Mm. That was my craziest day over the summer.
All of that for a haircut.
Yes.
And I get my haircuts in a mall. without the dangerous swamps and the crocodiles and the anyway, so
I don't know if you've ever tried to like wash your shoes out after they are really wet. That's what I had to do. I like showered my shoes and then just put that giant box fan on them for like probably 15 hours straight, just to get them almost good enough. They were still kind of, you're never going to get it fully.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm not going to go there barefoot, so I guess I have to go back. Oh, by the way, the engineering building was like 4 miles off campus. If I knew it was that far, I would have got a car before. I didn't know till like a few days before. I was like, well, now I got to take the bus everywhere, and
Yeah.
So annoying.
Yeah. Anyway, so how was your guys' experience coming back to campus just after the summer?
Annoying.
It was a little weird to see that Meyer Hall is still here, although they did take our table in that one room, so that's why we're in. You can't even really like see the scenery, but we're in some random room right now.
Yeah.
We got like a giant array of tables. It's kind of hanging out here.
Yep.
All right, what else we got?
Speaking of coming back to campus, how are y'all classes going so far after the first week?
Well, I don't have much homework so far. I've got a little homework that's due tonight tomorrow night. Due tomorrow night, but I've got too many classes, I'll tell you that.
How many credit hours do you have?
15 and a half, but...
And a half?
15 and a half.
What's the half?
I don't know. I've got a 2.5 credit hour in there somewhere.
Yeah.
A lot of the mechanical engineer classes will be like 0.5 or like 1.5 or something.
Which
It's
means
dumb.
that like they'll have 2 classes a week, and then there's another class that they do. It's also a lecture, but it'll be like once every other Friday.
Have you heard the rule that for like however many credit hours you have, you should spend twice as much time doing out of class stuff for that class?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah, our financial decisions professor said that, and he's got a 3 credit hour class, and He's really making use of those 6 hours, because I spent probably the last from 5 p.m. to like midnight yesterday just reading stuff for that class, and we've only had one class. That's I'm only like halfway done with the reading. I still got like another 7 hours, because that was all one chapter, but it's like a huge book. Maybe I just read slowly.
Which class is this again?
Financial decisions.
Good thing I
Taken
don't.
yet?
I don't think I've taken that class until my senior year.
So you're making good financial decisions so far? I mean, you're
Yeah,
reading the book.
I've learned a lot, but I've also read a lot. So.
I'm about to make a few bad decisions because after we're done here, I have to go buy my books still at the bookstore, and that closes at 2 today.
Are you sure that this is a good financial decision?
You know, if you think about your other options
I mean,
of how to
it's
acquire
fine.
books, there's a
What?
few of them that exist. The legality is questionable, but it's a victimless crime.
I mean, the companies that sell the books are the victims.
But can you call them victims?
Well, yes, quite a few of the companies that make textbooks, just a few pirated copies per university can cause them to go bankrupt.
All right.
It's actually kind of amazing.
I'm gonna correct you on that. You said the companies. You mean the company?
The
Pearson.
publishing companies.
Pearson.
McGraw-Hill.
McGraw-Hill, Pearson. They're not going.
Well, those are the
bankrupt
big
anytime soon.
companies, but there's a lot of other smaller companies.
Yeah, but they're
especially
not
for
selling.
like the less typical
they're not-
college books.
They're not selling Calc 1 textbooks for $500 each.
I know, but like the art of electronics, I'm pretty sure that's not published as like an educational text for universities. It's just published by individual publisher that a professor at universities have decided to like use the book because of how good it is.
If we're talking about like liberal arts, like
And that was one of
this
the books that
particular
Trent was telling me to try to like legal issue things
this
with.
particular brand of study Bible or this particular copy
No one's
of
doing the study
this republished book from the 1700s, stuff like that. But when you have like calculus or physics or chemistry or dynamics or statics or whatever,
Yeah.
it's like they have like there's like 3 companies and they're all massive.
Yeah.
Nothing's
Most
gonna
of
hurt
the
them.
books by those companies, though, like the PDF is already provided by the professors for, so
Mostly,
we don't
yes.
have to buy the books. All the required books I have is like published by small companies.
Yeah, like for dynamics, I have or actually I think for almost all of my classes that I've had, all of my STEM classes, I don't actually have to buy the book. They usually just give a free. They usually just give
They
a
have like PDF of what
yeah.
you need from the book.
It won't be. It'll either be a PDF from the book, or they'll just give you like the open source, the OpenStax chemistry or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm kind of the part about piracy.
If you really think about piracy, all you're doing. Okay, this is going to sound weird on the podcast. All you're doing is like
You wouldn't download a
Copy.
car, would you?
ones and zeros. So if you think about that, if you randomly typed a bunch of ones and zeros, you could reconstruct that PDF. Maybe that's what you did. Maybe that's what you tell the authorities. All of that, it's just a big coincidence. You just happen to type a bunch of them.
If you give enough monkeys typewriters, eventually you will come up with one of them will accidentally create the completed works of Shakespeare.
Yeah, and that's what you can use in court. That's just what happened. You hired a monkey. And
Yeah. But kind
Just
of
type
going
the
back to
PDF
what
again.
also what I was going to say earlier, there's also, I prefer physical copies to like online stuff.
Well, is it really worth the money? I mean, some of those books are like $100. I think the one we were looking at was only like
I mean,
50.
And you
but-
can't
Some of
carry them
them
around in your pocket.
Some of them it's worth it if it's like something I can use later on, like what Professor White was talking about with the art of electronics, how that's a book that you just keep with you.
Well, you can also just, pull it up on your phone, or just Google a question, or just ChatGPT it, look up a YouTube video.
We've always established ChatGPT isn't really that
Reading has
reliable.
to be like the least efficient way to get knowledge.
I've asked
On the contrary, it's the most
ChatGPT
efficient.
objective questions about things that it should know, and it's given me incorrect responses. Like I've asked, not necessarily on brand ChatGPT, but like other forks of it. I don't actually use on brand, but like I've asked it things like, for example, details about like the American Civil War, and it's just gotten like factual information incorrect. No, Abraham Lincoln did not lead an artillery brigade during the Civil War. He was a president. Why are you saying that? You're wrong.
Because somewhere on the internet, there's something that says that, and that's what ChatGPT found first.
Exactly. It found something.
Which is also why Google searches are bad, because in your own search, you can essentially come across the same stuff.
Yeah, so ChatGPT is basically the internet distilled, condensed, and that's what you're looking at. So you will find some of the smartest takes and some of the dumbest takes all in one, and they will be both presented as equivalent. And a lot of the time, like, one of them is going to say just completely incorrect things, and the other is going to say completely correct things. And they're going to be like presented next to each other, and they're just going to be in like the same sentence.
Well, I think one thing it actually is really good at is, and this probably does not apply to either of you guys, I don't know where you're at on this, but like writing code, it's just so fast compared to
Code, yeah.
Code
if I want to try to type out something that takes more than the slightest bit of effort, just plug that thing into ChatGPT, it's got it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that's part of how AI works. It'll never be smarter than humans, but it can process stuff a lot faster than we can.
Yeah, it's not as good at normal things that we do, but it can do it faster. So if you trust it not to make a mistake in a certain area, you can use it and it will just complete that task faster. But like, I know that there was the story about a guy who wanted to get some plane tickets, I think to England or something, and the company that was the airline had a ChatGPT integration, and the bot said that there was a refund policy if a certain problem happened or something like that, and that problem did happen, and he called for his refund, and they told him there is no refund policy. It literally lied to him, not because it was deceiving him, but because its neural network said, I am operating an airline service. I am a question bot. Here are things that some other question bots give. Oh, I should default to these parameters because this is in my database, and they're requesting information. And it does not, there's no dictionary that it's, or there's no like, there's no encyclopedia of, what my airline's rules are. It's just consulting the database that it was compiled from. So it will just say, well, yes, we still have flights to Mars because you asked for other flights to Mars. And, I'm programmed to please you. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you what you need. I'm going to give you that ticket to Mars. And it will never happen.
Sometimes, like I integrated like a part of ChatGPT, or Fred, what exactly it was, last summer, so 2023, during an internship. And you could give it like the most clear cut, like give this response as a number answer with a decimal, whatever. It'll still sometimes like add like its own sentence to it. It's like you can't use that data because if you're trying to like plug it into something that needs to be numerical, you can't just have like here's your answer, 23. You have to just have the 23 part, and you can give it the most clear cut instructions, and Maybe it's gotten better because that was a year ago. I've seen definitely some improvements in a lot of AI technology, but it's got like this rebellious thing to it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't listen sometimes.
Because it's programmed to be this nice and helpful consumer-facing interface, and then when you ask it, I need you to solve this math problem, it always punctuates it with, let me know if there's anything more I can help you with. And I need you to be an employee. I don't need you to be a bubbly consumer-facing interaction bot. You're not my friend. You're my tool. You're my calculator. I don't need you to give me funny remarks that will get in the way of my calculations. I can't just copy that, because then if I paste that to a calculator, that whole sentence becomes a string of variables. And now the dumber calculator can't parse that number, because it's not just 12 digits. It's now 12 digits plus whatever this is.
That was a long rant about AI.
I hate AI. Anyway, except when it's used correctly.
What's an example of it being used correctly? Making the logo for our podcast because I didn't feel like making it.
Is that, or like, if you sit down and you use your brain and you actually like ask it a question and then double check it and then triple check it, just maybe use it for like ideas, just finding ideas for something. I have a paper that I have to write for college. I need to come up with a topic. Give me ideas for this topic in this field.
That's one thing that's actually really useful for, not like topics, but sometimes I'll have a word that's like a very simple one. I'm like, I wouldn't really want to use this in a paper. What's like some good synonyms for this?
Yeah, synonyms.
It's got some good ones.
That works, because I've had problems with finding synonyms, and I don't know what to do. I don't know where to find, like maybe I'm missing a word, or I don't know, I don't think that this word makes sense in this sentence, I need a different one, or I'll paste in my paragraph and say, fill in the blank with a word that means this, that best fits this, and then it will find my word for me. That works.
Other times, I'll almost remember what a word is if it's like something like attenuate, that word. Sometimes I'll forget what that is. I'll be like, what's the word that sounds like attention, but it means to lessen the effect of, It's really helpful compared to me trying to Google that, and you can just never find it. I mean, it's never going to pop up in a million years if you try to Google what's the word that sounds like attention, but it means lessen the effect of.
But it does have constraint problems, because I've had times where I tell it, I'm looking for a word that's this many letters long, maybe it's 14 letters long, and I can't remember what it is, and it means, maybe it's an element or something, and it will just like forget how many letters I specified or forget that it's an element, and it'll just provide me a random word that maybe doesn't fit any of the criteria I provided. I'm looking for a synonym for potato, and it says cobalt is a synonym for potato, because it just wanted a word. It just found a word, and it forgot that I needed a synonym for potato. And that's infuriating.
Yeah.
All right, I guess I'll get into some deep topics here. Start with Josh on this one.
D&D.
No, we're not doing Dungeons and Dragons.
You
Please,
play
no.
Dungeons and Dragons.
A little bit. I'm starting to get into it.
Ooh.
My father played it in college. Not for me.
All right, so where do you see yourself in 1 second?
In 1 second? Here.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
In a research facility for something electrical engineering based.
Do you want to get like your master's degree and everything?
Undecided.
That's like, I was the only one because there's 10 people at the research thing in Western Michigan University, and they did like a show of hands who wants to get their master's degree. I guess I was the only one that did not want to, because I think 4 years is enough for me, and I want to go out in the industry and we'll see, maybe Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Maybe not California, but
Yeah, but I also know, like, in some fields that you go into, getting a master's can hurt you.
It can, yeah.
can
because-
hurt you.
Yeah,
Because
because
of
like
the time commitment.
everything, not necessarily a time commitment, but everything that you would need to know for that job, you'd already have learned to get your bachelor's. And so, like, if you have a master's, a lot of people may think then that you are overqualified for the job.
Mm-hmm.
In
Yeah.
which that can lead to a lot of problems if they hire you then, because they don't really know exactly like who you are as a person at the job interviews, which is why like someone could be a very good candidate in the job interview, but then just be an awful employee.
Yeah, and I've heard there's a trend of companies now wanting to hire people with like they want to hire people with as like entry level employees, but they want them with experience, which that doesn't like the concept of an entry level job was created I think after World War II to bring people who were GI Bill soldiers who had just graduated college in the 4 years after the war ended, to bring them into the fields without making them stressed out and not understand how to do anything, because I just got back from the Army and now I went to college and now I'm working and I have no experience in this field. So it was meant to slide them in, but now they want experience. Now I want an entry-level employee with 5 years of experience. That's not entry-level.
It's
I mean, it's a competitive field, and it's not like
yeah, but they want employees that know what they're doing, so they don't have to waste time training the employees. But then they can pay them cheaper than normal employees because it's an entry level entry-level job.
They want a 20-year-old with 21 years of experience, and they want him yesterday, and they don't want to pay him anything.
ideally that
Pretty
is
much,
what you
yeah.
want, though, but it's unrealistic. And
Like, if I get my
Yeah.
first job and I'm working at Caterpillar, just a company, any company, if I'm working at any company, I need to be trained. Like, college isn't enough. Valpo's great. They're teaching me how to be an engineer. They're not teaching me how to be professional in the workplace as an engineer. Maybe a little bit,
Well,
but not
that's
fully.
most colleges. They teach you the information you'll need, but they don't teach you the skills you'll need.
Exactly.
Most of the
It's
skills,
anticipated you learn that
anyways,
in
are
work.
on a job-specific basis.
Exactly.
So you have to be trained anyways.
You can't teach someone how to be you can't teach someone how to be a engineer at Boeing if you don't have them working with engineers at Boeing.
Yeah,
You can't do that. It's just not going to
and
happen.
that is part of the internship process.
Yeah.
It's where these companies aren't hiring full-time employees, where these employees technically should be working kind of like as an assistant, so they can watch and observe for like the first part, and then start to like integrate it and put what they observed and learned into the second part of the internship, so that they are getting training for this, so that by the time they graduate college, they would already have the work experience and would be a very good option for these companies to hire, since they already have the work experience in that position.
Yeah, I mean, I heard a funny story about a guy who was looking for a job he was a programmer, he was kind of a seasoned programmer, and he knew what he was doing, and he said that, he wrote this one program he was really proud of, and it was like all these different companies were starting to swarm over this one program, and they wanted everyone to have experience to get jobs with him. And he said he started applying for programming positions because he wanted to see what he would get accepted to, even though he didn't need the job. And he found out that he couldn't get accepted to any of the jobs that he was applying for that used his program. Because they wanted 4 years of experience with the program that he wrote, but it had only been out for 2 years. So you're going to get 0 people accepted into this job because this program isn't that old. I can't have 4 years of experience in a 2-year-old program. It hasn't been around that long.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make sense.
That's the problem with the U.S. industry, why we have to import more and more stuff and export less and less stuff is because of that. But like when you look at other companies from around the world, like Sweden, they have a Swedish factory they built in Lafayette across from my high school teacher 4 or 5 years ago.
Cool.
No, whatever year it was, I was a senior in high school, and he was telling us about it. Like, they'd accept anyone with a high school degree. All the training you'd ever need for the job you would learn after you got hired. And then for the entire first year that the factory was open, guess how much product they would be producing, which they produced parts for airplanes.
How much?
Their yearly goal was to have one complete product, because I don't remember what specifically it was they make. I think wings, or the engines that go on wings.
They just wanted one?
Yes. Because the way Swedish companies work, they prefer quality over quantity.
I mean,
they just wanted to have one good product, but by the end of the first year was open, to make sure that they had the best quality from that factory that they could get.
Well, I mean, if your first product takes a year and you work hard at making it perfectly, then you know what perfect is, and then next year you can make 20. And the year after you can make 40, and maybe the year after you can make 80.
Yeah.
And then you keep making it more
But
and more.
U.S. companies,
quality.
U.S. companies, the factory will open. It'd be like what we were saying earlier, where like they want people with experience, even though all the experience they have won't matter on the job.
Exactly.
And that they will want like 40,000 engines made by the end of the year from that factory.
And they will all be terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've heard that the reason that companies do these things is because what happens is if I apply for a job, my resume gets automatically searched by an AI for keywords. And those keywords will get me in the door or not. If they get me in the door, then it goes to a second AI. And that second AI screens me for certain traits that are needed in the job. And the way that list gets written is the hiring manager is told by, say, a PE engineer who, what he needs. It's like a pie in the sky wish list. And then that gets fed to an AI. But that pie in the sky wish list doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need that. We don't need that.
Yeah.
We need people with vaguely that kind of, maybe 4 out of 10 of what's on the list. And they feed that to an AI, and the AI says, "You're not perfect. 0. You're done. You're done. You're done. You're done."
It's weird, because
And they'll look for this out of the 100,000 people who apply, none of them are good enough. So then they have to lower their standards, and then they have to lower their standards again, and lower their standards again, until finally. So you need to figure out when you're applying and when their AI has filtered through all the people and decided, oh wait, there's no one here with 500 years of experience in AutoCAD. Oh, I think we should reconsider our options.
Well, ideally, if you were one of those people that are hiring, you would ideally want the people with the most experience. Kind of like when I guess the opposite, when you're looking for a car, you want, whatever you want, the most ideal car, least miles. But Yeah, I guess some of them are really unrealistic, but if you look long enough, you'll find someone.
Yeah,
And some sucker that takes a really cheap job.
But also, experience is one of the worst things to look for in an employer, because it doesn't really tell you anything about the employee.
Yeah.
Because a story I've heard from my grandpa, I believe, he knew a guy that he owned a construction company, and he was telling my grandpa this story one time, where he hired this new guy. He was mid-50s, had started working the construction trade about 20, so he had 30 years of experience. The dude had to fire him the first day. Because he had 30 years of experience. That doesn't necessarily mean it was all good experience. Because the guy's first day, he was told to do something, he said no. So he got fired for it because he was refusing to work. And then the guy tried to take the company to court, which failed on the guy. But like, the guy had 30 years of work experience, but he was an awful employee because he didn't want to work.
It is a good indicator, though, that you're a good employee if you've been around 30 years. You probably picked up some wisdom.
Experience
things that
means
young people wouldn't know.
Experience means that you more than likely you'll have the skill. But that in today's world, it don't matter how skilled you are at anything. If you are not a good employee, or you cannot work as a team, you're going to be costing the company money. Because most companies nowadays, especially for a lot of fields like engineering, you're almost always going to have to be working with other people.
But they can take it off their taxes.
The company?
Yeah.
How?
If you have a loss as a business, you can take it off your taxes.
Oh yeah, because like your tax is based upon how much you make.
Yeah, and if you say, well, we made $4 million this year, but a factory burned down, and we also are down in our sales by $5 million. Okay, well, feed that into TurboTax, and we'll figure it out. But we're going to take it off our taxes.
If you normally make $45,000 a year, but then you make $40,000, that's why there'd be the drop in tax. But like, companies work to make the most amount of money.
But if a factory burns down, for example, you can take that off your taxes.
That depends on state by state.
Unless you did it yourself.
That depends state by state, because that's what insurance is for. It's mainly so that people can't do that, which is part of why insurance fraud is so big.
Yeah, I know. What I mean is, like, assuming it was a freak accident, assuming we're not talking about insurance fraud.
Well, yeah, then that'd be an insurance claim, and that can't always be called on tax. But even
sometimes,
then,
yeah. Anyway, this isn't about tax code.
Yeah, even then, like having an employee that's skilled at something, but can't work well as a team, that's still not good, because that usually will also cause a lot of other people that are good employees, both with skill and working with others, to leave then, and can cause the business to go bankrupt. That is the number one cause of like the big corporations going bankrupt, is either because of that, and then the other cause is usually because of corruption.
And the way they have like all these employees who don't do anything, and there's no problems with them, is just the size of the company. When you have 100,000 employees, who knows who's doing work and who's not?
Yeah.
And HR departments, they can't always be trusted to be the ones that aren't slacking off. So what if your HR department guy doesn't do his job? Okay, well, now you've got an unknown amount of employees who are delinquent on all their tasks. And you're still paying them six-figure salaries every year. Not all of them, but some of them. So if I'm getting paid $120,000, $200,000 to come into work, sit at my desk, play Minecraft, get up, take a smoke break, and then eat lunch, and then go home early. If I'm getting paid $200,000 to do that every day, I need to be fired.
I feel like that's like what a lot of remote jobs are like.
I mean,
because they have at least at the workplace, you have like people walking by, they can see if you're like playing Minecraft on your computer or something.
Well, I mean, there's also the element of the employee who's been given 14 tasks to do, and he's been doing them all month, and then he finally gets them all done, and they're all done, and he now has nothing to do.
That's why you always have to look busy.
Exactly.
Even if you have nothing to do.
Because otherwise you get fired. Because you're not useful. You're not being useful to me. You're fired. And then 2 weeks, there's a project that only you can do. So you have to be careful with who you fire.
Yeah.
All right, well, Robert, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Well, I've always wanted to go into plastics like my father, so I'll probably end up in plastics. If not, I'd like to end up in some kind of manufacturing. So, in some manufacturing plant, probably.
And what's like the end goal then? When you're like 80 years old, what's like the big goal that you would have wanted to accomplish? Is it money? Is it
I want my own
legacy?
Well, there's legacy too, you know. I would like my own, I'd like a pretty big house. That's all I can think of. Pretty big house and not having to worry about finances.
Yeah.
Man, I think that's everyone's dream. Who wants to live in a little closet and worry about every meal?
Yeah,
Like Nikola Tesla.
Like
Live in a little
Nikola
hotel,
Tesla, that
feeding pigeons.
yeah,
Talking to
you know,
them.
that was a
Yeah.
tragedy. That's
It
a
is. He was a
tragedy.
good man.
He was a good man. He was one of the smartest people ever to be alive, and he died poor.
Edison played
That's
dirty.
the story of some
Edison
of the
played dirty.
greatest.
That man's a criminal.
You heard that he electrocuted an elephant using
Yeah.
AC.
And because to prove that Nikola Tesla's invention was deadly or something.
And now every house uses.
And now every house uses it because Edison was a criminal, and he was caught being a criminal. Anyway, wow, and you know, and he electrocuted an elephant. You know, you could have done a rat. It had to be
Well, when
an
it's an
endangered
elephant,
species.
that's a big point that
It had to be an endangered species.
even an animal that big could get electrocuted. But
I mean, you know what he could have done? He could have filled a tank with water and boiled it. Instead, he chose to electrocute a living creature.
Yeah.
you don't want to be like one of those people though that history remembers. Nikola Tesla.
Oh,
Isaac Newton,
I'd
the
love,
only big
I'd
name.
love to be like that. But the problem is, a lot of the time they're only recognized 100 years after they die. I mean, Nikola Tesla didn't die in his own property. He died in a hotel. He was poor. He didn't even pay. He didn't even pay to stay in that hotel. They just said, "Oh, I know you. Oh yeah, absolutely. Here's the key. You're fine."
It was January 7th, 1943.
I
remember the
don't
date.
remember that. But okay.
He's born July 10th, 1856. Right? Yes.
This guy remembers things.
I got the Nikola Tesla facts down. I home screen.
Oh no.
Guess the wrong person.
Yeah, it is 1:35. I've got a place to be. We should wrap this up real soon.
What do you have after this?
I need to go to the bookstore still.
We're at 58 minutes. You gotta stretch it out 2 more minutes.
I can't. I'm pretty sure the bookstore closes at 2.
I'm gonna figure out.
Which-
I've got a friend, and we're probably gonna go out to eat at some point.
I've seen 2 things online. One says the hours is that it's closed today. The other says the hours that it closes at 2 p.m.
All right. Have either of you ever tried a Chicago-style hot dog?
This sounds like it's gonna be a long topic. Sounds like another 45 minutes right
hear me out.
No, I've not tried it.
Chicago-style hot dog. Chicago hot dog.
If the
And
book-
you know what the ingredients are?
closed, I can use online
let's get the
stuff,
recipe.
What I need for Monday, and then go in Monday and get stuff.
All right, Chicago-style hot
It's
dog.
just one book.
You take a beef hot dog, a poppy seed hot dog bun, yellow mustard, sweet green pickle relish, chopped onion, tomato wedges, 2 of them, 1 dill pickle spear, 2 sport peppers, and 1 dash of celery salt. That's a Chicago-style hot dog. And the reason that there's no ketchup, and the reason that's a thing, no ketchup on hot dogs in Chicago, is because all that makes something that tastes kind of like ketchup, but better. And if you put ketchup on it, you ruin it.
I don't like quite a few of those ingredients, though.
What kind of hot dog has potato wedges in it?
Oh, I didn't. I said tomato wedges.
Oh.
Did I say potato wedges? Am I
I think you said potato.
tomato wedges?
Because I thought fries.
Potato wedges?
wed-
No,
potato
there's no
wedges
potato
fries.
wedges.
So
There's no potatoes on the hot dog. You eat them with it. It's called fries. That's a different thing.
Well, on that note, I think we're going to wrap up this podcast for today. As you know, we're always looking for some guests.
I've got a few ideas in mind, so you guys will have to wait and see.
For what, guests or for...
For guests, it might be a professor. We don't know yet, but we're gonna try. I'll ask. We'll figure something out.
Well, that's the end of the show. Bye.
Bye.